What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Crush City Territory. I'm Chandler Rome, joined this time by the newly minted 39-year-old Josh Reddick. Josh, first of all, happy belated birthday. But
Thank you.
Tyler obviously didn't want to celebrate. He's not with us. He claims he's sick. I have not been able to confirm that he is sick, so he may just be deserting you on the day after your birthday. How do you feel about that?
You know, there's a reason why I'm called Mr. Irrelevant in the sporting world of baseball. And Tyler just continued to prove that today because, for those that don't know, Justin Verlander's birthday is today. And it's widely celebrated because obviously it should be JV's great human, great player, Hall of Famer. But that does touch up and bring up a sensitive subject for yours truly, because every year in spring training, after we got JV, AJ made this running prank of, not acknowledging the February 19th birthday in the room, but going all out for the next birthday the following day. So it was always a running joke. And I think Verlander had everything to do with it because he was still in the back left corner of the locker room, right? When you walk in, back left corner.
Yep.
I was on the right by the bathrooms, right where I belong, right by the poopers. I could see him giggling in the corner like a little girl, just waiting for something to happen. So it was a running joke for a little while for that. And then so it just continues to add on February 20th. It's not a friendly day for me because everybody just seems to just celebrate the 20th way more than they do the 19th. So Tyler, I'm on to you, man.
What do you get Justin Verlander for his birthday? What do you get someone that has everything?
Nothing. He sets up his own birthday party for everybody in spring training. So that's taken care of. And he pays for all his drinks. All the drinks and the food are covered as they should be. My man's made over $400 million. He's what, second or fourth most in the history of sports in money made. So nobody should get him anything. I'll give him a nice pat on the butt. Hey, bud, happy birthday. Keep doing what you do. Because, you just said it. There's nothing you can get that guy. What are you going to give him, a gift card to the golf store? Like maybe a dozen golf balls. Every dad that plays golf loves a good dozen golf balls. You can never go wrong there. So maybe I should have done that, but I didn't get him anything.
Yeah, that seems like the way to go. Either a sleeve of golf balls or nothing, because he'll at least, he'll use the golf balls. You're going to get Justin Verlander's anything else, he'll probably just throw it in whatever room in his house or his house is.
If it makes it to the house, it might make it to the trash can at the curb for all we know.
Correct. So I wonder what AJ did for JV today in Lakeland, in Tiger Town. Whether there was
I guarantee you there was something. I should message AJ while we're on the feed and be like, hey, what'd you do for JV's birthday? Because I didn't get a text from you. I'm gonna get on it right now.
All right.
I'm texting AJ right now.
Okay. Well, while you're doing that, let's catch everyone up a little bit on what they've missed since the last podcast, which featured Astros opening day starter Hunter Brown. Hunter Brown threw his second live BP of spring training today at Cacti Park at the Palm Beaches, at the Astros spring training facility. He got 2 ups, which means he threw simulated 2 innings. And in between his inning breaks, Tatsuya Imai threw his first live BP as a Major League Baseball player. And he actually told Astros coaches yesterday that he was pretty nervous, that he was going to be nervous throwing his first live BP in front of a lot of people. Josh, it's funny. Joe Espada and I were talking a little bit today, and we were kind of talking about like how scrutinized this live BP was going to be. And I said, I can think of only one other live BP in my time covering the Astros that probably got more attention than Tatsuya Imai's today. And it was Forrest Whitley's when he was still like the top consensus prospect of ball. And I remember, I'll never forget, we were on one of the backfields, and it was about as big of a crowd as showed up today to watch Imai, showed up to watch Whitley. He faced Springer. I think Bregman was in there. And I remember, like, I was working at the Houston Chronicle, and I remember, like, we went to every hitter after, like, oh, what'd you see? What'd you see? And
of course.
I'll never forget. George just kind of looked at us. He was like, well, like, it was pretty good. Like, I hadn't seen live pitching in 3 months, but it looked good to me. Like, it just goes to show, like, and there's nothing as Forrest Whitley, but it goes to show, like, you should not make a lot of live BPs, but it's all we have at this point. And I think maybe more for Tatsuya Imai. I think today maybe allowed him to take a little bit of a deep breath. Like he passed another test, maybe passed another hurdle. And I think, I don't know if it was designed this way, but if it was, kudos to the Astros and kudos to the people that set it up. But Jose Altuve was the second batter he faced. And if you're going to be nervous, if you're going to have a lot, it's best just to rip the Band-Aid off, face the Hall of Famer, the resident Hall of Famer on the team. And Tatsuya Imai got the full Jose Altuve experience. He saw 2 pitches. Altuve swung and missed at the first one. It was one of those sliders that we'll talk about in a little bit, Imai's slider, but swung and missed at a slider and then rolled over what looked like a fastball to the left side of the infield. But Imai afterwards said, felt good. It was good to see him pounding the strike zone. But he said once Altuve stepped into the batter's box and once he started pitching to Altuve, this was Imai's direct quote through an interpreter. He said, "Wow, I really feel like I'm in the big leagues now."
That's high praise for not only Altuve, who deserves every bit of praise he gets, but good for him. I mean, Imai seems to be adjusting well, and we've talked about that clubhouse atmosphere. It's such an easy transition to come over there. I think I read somebody else's comment. Was it Burrow? I think Burrows said the exact same thing like yesterday or today about how great the environment is there. But for him to come out and just say how nervous he was shows that the competitor that he really is. He's excited to be there. It's not just another day for him. This is a complete different culture shock for this guy. Like, he's coming to a different country, small town Florida city that, there's probably not a whole lot to do for somebody who doesn't know where to go. So not only is he adjusting hard to the baseball world, he's adjusting to life over here as well. So for him to come out, be nervous, and then say something like that about Altuve, it just shows how comfortable he is and how good he's hopefully going to be. Like you said, we can rewind nothing against Forrest Whitley. Let's hope that career path goes a completely opposite direction as that one did for the Houston Astros organization. But it's good. Get him out of there. We may know, like you said, we haven't seen probably anywhere close to what Tatsuya Imai is going to be able to do in a big league uniform. Like, this is our first step moving forward, seeing what he can do, and it's just going to get better and better as it goes on, as spring training goes on. And then you got to go into the season. His first start, nerves are going to kick in a whole lot more. It's just a ladder that he just has to continue to climb and keep moving forward. And he seems like he's got the right head on his shoulders to be able to accomplish that.
Yeah, you mentioned it there. You hit the nail on the head. Like, there's going to be a lot of firsts for him. Like, his first spring training workout was a big deal because there was a ton of Japanese media here that was just following his every move. And then today, again, it's another step. His first Grapefruit League start when he pitches in a spring training game, we'll be having this same discussion kind of around that. And then obviously his first start in the regular season will have the same stuff. So it's a gradual thing with Imai. He's going to have to kind of take all these necessary steps. But again, this is why you have spring training. It's better to do this here. It's better to do this, like you kind of mentioned, in a small town, not a small town, but a small part of South Florida that, kind of secluded. You're not, there's fans here. And obviously, all of his teammates came to watch him throw live BP today, but, you're not doing this in front of 40,000 people with a third deck with, a bunch of pressure on you. Like, look, if he would have gone out there and sprayed the ball over the place today and not been able to throw it over the plate, look, there would have been a little bit of concern, but you wouldn't
minor panic.
Right. It wouldn't have been like sound the alarm bells. Like, this guy's like, it would have been okay if he would have not performed well today, but it was good for the Astros that he did. He was, one thing I will say about watching it, he was around the strike zone, which I'll be honest with you, in his first couple bullpens, when we were watching his bullpens in the 10-pack, that was not always the case. He was spraying it around a little bit. And again, you never want to overreact to anything in spring training. If he goes out in his first Grapefruit League start and it doesn't go well, I beg of you, please do not overreact. Please do not act like this was a bad signing. In the same vein, if he goes out there in his first Grapefruit League start and strikes out 9 guys in 3 innings, don't overreact to that. It's all, what's the old adage? You don't believe March stats and you don't believe September stats. So, but I'm glad you brought up, though, his transition and how he's fitting in here, because you mentioned that he's coming. It's a culture shock, and he's coming to a place where he doesn't know anybody. And I think with Imai, the thing that has impressed me the most about what is around him is that He is coming into the perfect clubhouse, I think, for him. Because Josh, I mean, you've been in there, you know the culture in there, you know how welcoming everyone is, you know that, you know, every time I try to write about kind of the culture that's been cultivated in there across this era of Astros baseball, you know, you struggle to come up with the right words. But, you know, Mauricio Dubon said once, like, we don't have many rules. And, you know, there was another time where I think it was Justin Verlander said, you know, if you give your best, that's perfectly fine, because you know the guys at the top in Altuve and Correa and McCullers, kind of the figureheads of this, you know, they're giving it their best. So as long as you reciprocate what they do, it's good to go in there. And there's no preconceived notions, no judgment. But again, this is new. The Astros have not had a Japanese-born player come straight from NPB or a foreign league in their history. So this is new for everyone. And to that effect, you know, Tatsuya Imai, after his first, or it was his second, it was during his second spring training workout, kind of started to, he stepped out of his comfort zone a bit. He was willing to, you know, acknowledge that he was a little lonely, that, you know, he's staying at I'm sure you know the hotel he's staying at, Josh. He's staying at the Hilton. Nope. You never stayed there. Of course not. You would never stay there. But he's staying
I was a free agent signing. I wasn't staying at a hotel in spring training.
Of course not. He of course you were not. But Tatsuya Imai he was a free agent signing, but I think just to maybe get stuff going, he's staying at a hotel to start.
Culture shock. The culture shock comes back to play.
Yeah. But so after his second spring training, during his second spring training workout, this was still when pitchers and catchers it was just pitchers and catchers. They were doing PFPs on one of the backfields, and he found Ryan Weiss. And Ryan Weiss obviously played last year in the KBO in Korea. And Ryan Weiss has a lot of parallels with Tatsuya Imai. Ryan Weiss has been exactly where Tatsuya Imai is now. He has been in a foreign league where he needed an interpreter around him at all times, and did not know the culture, did not know the language, did not know anything. Like, Ryan Weiss has been in Tatsuya Imai's shoes. So in hearing Tatsuya Imai talk about it, he said he knew that. He knew that he had been there before. He knew, and Imai said this through his interpreter, he said, I had a connection with him. So during their second day of PFPs, Imai did what I don't think a lot of people would be comfortable doing in that situation. Like, he went up to Ryan Weiss and he asked him, you know, what do you do when you leave the field? What do you do when you go home? Because I'm bored. He told him, I'm bored. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Ryan Weiss's wife is down here and staying with him in spring training. He said, well, you know, usually I kind of hang out with my wife, but if you want to go to dinner, like, I'd love to take you to dinner. And Imai, as Weiss described it, Imai was very, very excited to get that invitation. Ryan Weiss extended the invitation to Mike Burrows, another new addition to the Astros clubhouse, and they all went to dinner in downtown West Palm Beach last week, and it produced this wonderful picture of all three of them that Ryan Weiss's wife shared on her Instagram story. But, you know, nice. That, Josh, I gained a lot of respect for Ryan Weiss in that instance, just because, you know, it to have that initiative, to understand and to have that sort of human empathy for someone that you can clearly tell, you know, just maybe needed a friend at that point. That was really cool. It was cool to see that, and it was cool that happened. And Tatsuya Imai even said after, like, it meant the world to him to do that.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, it just shows that small step towards leadership that, you know, goes a little unnoticed. It didn't go unnoticed in this situation per se, but just for him to step up. You know, these are all three new guys on a team that, you know, didn't really know what to expect coming in here. I mean, they were just guys that came along just trying to make this team. Obviously, you know, these two or three of those guys are, I'm losing my words now. Excuse me. Just being new, let's re-scratch that. Just being new and just getting to know each other on that level probably makes it a lot easier for them as a whole to be able to fit in, and not only with just their pitchers, but with the whole staff as well, to be able to kind of get comfortable with at least some guys and then kind of move their way forward as they get to know the rest of the staff as well. But for him to just step up and say, you know what, I could have suggested 9 things to this guy to do without having somebody come to hang out with him. But instead, he just went straight to, hey, let's go grab a bite to eat. Let's just get to know each other a little bit and move on from there. So huge credit to him. I know it had to help out Imai because, you know, from a much smaller standpoint, like going to a new team like that is kind of difficult to do once you're away from the field. Like when I was there in 17, got along great with all the guys when I got there. The outfield that we had with Springer, myself, even like Nori Aoki after he got home from the back from the WC. Like we all meshed well, but we all kind of went our separate ways once we left the field to kind of do our own thing. Whether guys were married, I was still single at the time, but you know it's a little different. I'm not sure how Japanese players enjoy golfing as much as like we do. So there's always those different things. But for me, like you just got to find that outlet. Find an outlet. If you get bored, like I did Legos. I would go buy like 1,000-piece Legos and sit in my Airbnb and hang out and do Legos at night with my dogs. I had no shame, or I played video games. So he'll find something. I'm sure there's something that he'll get involved in and really start to enjoy. Just he's got to find that video game or a show that he can really enjoy and just sit on the couch and relax, man. It's a long season. You don't have to do something every day. Just hang out, and if you're lonely, go get a dog.
And I do want to make a point too. Like after his live BP today, like the minute he walked off the mound, like Carlos Correa met Imai like before he even got off the mound to give him a hug. Like there was a ton of teammates that were, encouraging him and telling him how great he pitched, in the clubhouse afterward. They really are like rallying around this guy who I don't want to talk about Imai as if he's like this helpless kind of like look, guys, he can hold his own. It's not as if this is something where like he needs his hand held and things like that, but it's just reassuring. And just from the human side of things, it's cool to see them like embrace something that is so new because, Josh, like you mentioned, like you've been new before, and the Astros have had new guys come in their clubhouse a lot, and guys that there is a language barrier. But again, this is something so new for the entire organization, welcoming a Japanese player straight from NPB that has not happened before. So everything that does happen is pretty new, and it's been interesting and really encouraging just as a human being to see the way they've welcomed this guy. But, I don't know when we're going to get to see Imai pitching Grapefruit League play. I don't want to say he's behind because he's not. Like he's not injured. This is not an injury thing, but they're listening to him in terms of like how much he wants to throw, when he wants to do certain things. So today was only his first live BP. Usually pitchers get about 2 or 3 live BPs before they get into a game. Yep. Hunter Brown threw his second live BP today, as I mentioned. So Imai just, again, don't panic on this, but is just a little bit behind the normal kind of starting buildup. But again, that could be his preference. The Astros are allowing him to kind of dictate his schedule. So don't know when we'll see Tatsuya Imai in Grapefruit League play, but we will see Grapefruit League play beginning tomorrow on Saturday at Cacti Park of the Palm Beach as the Astros will play the Nationals. And Josh, as we have talked about in the past, these games largely, you don't want to put too much stock into what happens if guys don't have great Grapefruit League showings. If guys do have great Grapefruit League showings, say that 5 times fast. If you don't want to put too much stock in the stats, but there is stuff to watch, and there are reasons to watch these games. And I think first and foremost, what you need to watch starting on Saturday is the Astros outfield and how Joe Espada is going to divvy some playing time, how these guys are going to look, because since the Astros traded Jesus Sanchez to the Blue Jays for Joey Loperfido, they have not done anything else to address their outfield. And it is something that I think is a concern within the organization. I don't think it's I don't even think I can say it. Dana Brown coming out and saying after they traded Jesus Sanchez, we're not done yet, and then saying like we're focusing on left-handed bats, that just signaled that they're not very comfortable with the current outfield configuration. And it's Zach Cole, it's Jake Myers, it's Cam Smith, and it's Joey Loperfido. Those are the 4 guys that, as of this moment, probably have the inside track to make in the opening day roster. That is not a lot of experience, Josh. I mean, Jake Myers is the veteran of that group, and I would not certainly call him an established big leaguer, but it's going to be interesting to see how Joe maneuvers this, and quite frankly, whether the Astros add to this outfield mix during Grapefruit League play from an outside source.
I I honestly don't know who they even go to. I don't know. There's not a name that pops up for me to even think about a reference, but there's got to be something. I mean, like these four guys. I mean, what Jake has, what, 2 years, 2.5 years of major league service time, if that. Or no, is he in arbitration? Doesn't matter. He's pre 5 year, so he's definitely not an established veteran at all. So that leadership role becomes way more of a weight for him to kind of bear. And then you have a guy like Zach Cole, who's got what, 2 months of, not even a month of service time to come in here and hopefully make a team. But yeah, you're right. This, if you're putting a lineup together, these four guys are on your lineup card in game one. So I mean, this is something that they've got to do, and hopefully, hopefully they don't have to do anything. Hopefully, one or two of these guys can break out. Cam Smith just continues to build forward in the way he's moving. We'll give Cam his love since Tyler's not here. Um, and he's got all, and every window is open for him. He's got every chance to go through and really break out and be that next superstar that they really wanted to be. And who knows, Zach Cole could be that next person too, kind of the guy that nobody thought could step up. But there's got to be some work done, and they have. I mean, they've got to make the decision harder for them to pick somebody up. If these guys really want to make the club as a whole, then they have to do everything they can to go out there, not only just perform, but go out there every day in spring training, show they're ready to work, show they're trying to get better every day, work on weaknesses that they need to improve on, and just make Dana's job that much harder. Be like, man, maybe we don't need this person, or maybe we do need this person. So it's all in. They're in the driver's seat. Let them handle it. Make Dana's job harder. But where they're at right now, it's going to be a tough pill to swallow if you got to look at those four guys if you can't get things right.
I'm going to throw some numbers at you real quick. So file some of these numbers away. Jake Myers has a grand total of 1,558 major league plate appearances in his career. Okay, 1,558. Zach Cole, Cam Smith, and Joey Loperfido have combined for 911 major league plate appearances.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Sanchez, who the Astros traded away to the Blue Jays, has 1,681 plate appearances against right-handed pitching alone. So that's not even counting the time that he hits left. So what I'm trying to say is, like, I'm Jesus Sanchez, trading him is sensible, right? Like, he was making too much money. He did not have a path really to everyday playing time as you looked at it, especially with how his last 2 months went. But the one thing he did have, he had a track record. He had a back, and I know everyone's going to hate to hear this phrase, but he had a back of the baseball card. Even if you didn't see it at all in the 2 months he was an Astro,
just don't look at the 2025 season.
Right. Don't look at the last two. He was good. He was a good player when the Astros acquired him from the Marlins, and then it just went terribly for the last 2 months.
Yes, he was. And he was hot for what, a week? He was hot for like a week, and that was it.
Yep, exactly. So it's okay to trade Jesus Sanchez. Like that, the whole crux of it was, if you're going to trade your most experienced outfielder, if you're going to trade the guy that, if you really look at it, he's probably your third or fourth best option against right-handed pitching on most days, it better come with a counter move. It better come with something to replace him. That's not Joey Loperfido, who Joey Loperfido could be great. Like, we've seen the upside. Like, he's a left-handed bat that could crush right-handed pitching. Who knows? But he just hasn't done it.
Nope.
Zach Cole hasn't done it. Cam Smith hasn't done it. So in the absence of that, you're relying on a lot of inexperience in the outfield. And we know how much Dana Brown values Grapefruit League results. That's a lot of the reason why Cam Smith made the opening day roster last year, is because he tore it up in Grapefruit League play. But Josh, I wonder how logical that line of thinking is, because as we've talked about a lot, like, all three of these guys, and look, I think the Astros would love it if Cole, Loperfido, and Smith all went out in Grapefruit League play and just raked. From day one, they put up absurd stats, and they would feel really good about going into the season. But I don't know that we can take much in the grand scheme from these guys raking in Grapefruit League play, because as we've talked about, it is just such a different kind of style of game that's played here, and you don't know what kind of level of pitching these guys are facing.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the level of pitching alone. The first week of spring training is usually your guys who are fighting for that spot, or they're your camp invite guys that are just there to get their work before they get sent out next week. So that alone is one step. And then even when you get into like the grind in the middle of March of spring training, you may get their number 2 or number 1, number 3 guy for 3 or 4 innings, but then
Right.
it's, maybe one good reliever, maybe the team's closer gets their 1 inning, but then like the 7th, 8th, ninth, like you may be looking at double A, triple A guys that are just there to fill innings and get the game over with. So you can't really take into credit guys coming in and raking in the 8th and ninth inning, because if we're going to be blunt, most of the guys that are playing in the 8th or ninth inning in the lineup are facing the pitchers they're going to be facing in their double A season. So it's kind of like an even matchup wherever you look at it. Starters are already out on both sides of the baseball. So it's kind of hard for me to read that much into spring training stats, but if Dana Brown can believe in it, then Dana Brown's going to believe in it. So, it's cost guys spots more than I think it's earned them in the history of the game. I've known a lot of guys that have hit close to damn near 500 and got sent out second week of spring training because it didn't matter who you were. It just doesn't matter what you do. You're just here to be seen. So spring training stats for me, man, because flip side, your superstar could go out there and hit 160 and it's not going to matter. He's still going to hit third for you on opening day. So it's kind of hard to look at spring training stats on any kind of thing for me personally, but but then again, this is all these guys really have to rely on right now. When you look at it, like we said, we're talking about the lineup card. Those are the 4 guys you have to do it. So you have to put them under that microscope and make sure that they can do everything right and perform for you.
And the other thing, and you can speak to this, Josh, as a guy that, veteran players, established players, when they come to spring training, like this is the time to work on stuff. This is the time where if like Christian Walker said he's going to experiment with a toe tap. Well, like if Christian Walker doesn't hit this spring, it's probably because he's tinkering with his swing. He's trying some different timing mechanisms out, trying some different stuff. The same thing goes for pitchers. So if you see like a young guy get a hit off of an established big leaguer, like how do you know that guy's not working on his changeup? Or how do you know that guy, like if he gets into a 2-strike count, he's like, all right, like I'm going to try a right on right changeup here in a 2-strike count to see how it looks. And
I'm going to throw my 5th best pitch at him just to see what I can do with it.
Right. And
in reality, I'm going to throw you this one in the season and let you go back to the dugout.
That happens so much more than I think fans appreciate in spring training. It's like, this is the only time of year when you guys, if you're an established veteran guy, like you can really work on stuff with no consequences. Like,
and on the flip side of that, like there's guys like, you always see like those few numbers where top guys go out and go like, oh, he only went 1 1/3 and gave up 6. And then you look at his pitch count and you're like, oh, he only threw 30 pitches. It's because the first 3 hitters who were double A guys went after the first pitch heater. Mm-hmm. And, my man didn't have time to work on stuff. Guy like Verlander, let's go back to Verlander. Like JV's not a first pitch get you out guy. No. Like JV throws 3 pitches, sets you up and then sits you down. Whereas these guys are trying to get on top, get that hit off of JV. And what the first thing they do when they get on the bus? Hey, Mom, guess what I got a hit off of today? Or, hey, Dad, you'll never get like this. It's true because I did the exact same thing. Like I did the exact same thing, I think, in my first camp in 2009, like with the Red Sox. Like I think I had Roy Halladay or something in Toronto. And I was like, dude, I got to hit off his cutter and hit a double in left center. And then first time I ever faced him, I went 3 straight to the dugout. It was a very humbling situation.
I'll never forget. I think it was my first year on the beat. JV pitched. He pitched against the Nationals in West Palm Beach in a spring training game. And I think I remember who the prospect was, but I don't want to say his name out loud just because I don't. But this kid hit 2 homers off. This kid hit 2 homers.
Can I say his name? Because I know it.
Sure. Who was it?
Carter Kieboom.
It was Carter Kieboom. That's who
I played I was in right field for that game.
And being in the press box, like all of the Nationals beat reporters were, oh my God, this is our story. Because Carter Kieboom was at the time like the Nationals' best prospect. Like
he's like number 2 or 3 prospect in baseball too.
And he took Justin Verlander deep twice in a big league spring training game, which is like for us reporters, that's like gold. If the best prospect taking a future Hall of Famer deep twice. And one of the Nationals writers at the time asked, hey, would you mind asking Justin just about, what he saw from the kid? And I'll never forget. I don't have the quote off the top of my head, but Justin goes, I was like, yeah, the kid did what he had to do, I guess. Like, good job. And like, you can tell, like, this was not Justin like Justin probably threw him a changeup in a 1-2 count when he probably threw like 50 changeups total in the ensuing season. Or like
Right.
you set hitters up differently. You do stuff in different counts that you would never do if the game matters. So again, when you're looking at spring training, when you're looking at these stats, take it all with a grain of salt, because you don't know what the other guy is working on, and you don't know, quite frankly, if he's ever going to see anything like that sequencing when the season starts. So it's why this outfield is still worrisome, even if these guys go out and rake in spring training. And look, the Astros and Joe Espada would rather these guys rake in spring training than not. They'll fully take all the caveats of, oh, it's just spring training. But if Loperfido, Smith, and Cole all go out and are hitting 300 with a 900 OPS, they'll be perfectly fine with that. But assuming that's going to carry over into the season is a little bit disingenuous, which is why this is the rationale as to why Isaac Paredes has been available all offseason, because they want to alleviate the surplus in the infield, obviously, but they also know that this outfield, it could go really well if Cam Smith, actualizes his potential that we know he has. That answers a question. If Zach Cole can cut down on the swing and miss and is the guy that they saw in the minor leagues last year, that answers another question. Then the outfield's great, but that's a lot of ifs, and that's a lot of pressure to put on two young guys, which is why they have been trying to get a veteran outfielder in here to basically, for lack of a better word, Josh, be an adult. Like, go get an adult to play in the outfield and help them out. And if I remember right, and if I've heard right, and if my sources are right, I do think there will be at least one adult coming to West Palm Beach to help out the outfielders. Is that accurate?
I don't know if you want to define this individual as an adult, age-wise and maybe life-wise, but yeah, I am actually going to be in West Palm Beach for the first week of March.
Nice.
As it was the cacti of the ballparks at West Palm Beach in Florida. Is that the name of it now?
Cacti Park of the Palm Beaches.
Whatever it is, wherever they play. Yeah, Joe Espada called me about 4 days ago, asking if I would come down and work with the outfield for like a 6-day stretch. And I got to say, I was pretty excited. I didn't think I'd ever be this excited about going and doing a like a coaching role. But I'm pretty stoked about it. Go down there and kind of do what I can to help these guys out, figure out what they want me to do first. I still don't even know what Joe is going to have me do, but I would assume kind of like what a rover does, and just be out there for the morning drills, work with them in the morning. If they just want to talk, I'll talk. And then just watch what they do during the games, I would think. So hopefully I can come down there and just give them a little bit of, tips and advice to hopefully get them in the right frame of mind. And they've got to apply it. I can only tell them what to do, but I'm looking forward to going down there and working with them, but also seeing the guys. I'm old, but I'm not old enough yet to where there's still guys in the league that played when I played too. So it'll be good to get back in there with those guys and the atmosphere of baseball again. So I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss it, but I'd also be lying if I said I did miss it a lot.
Don't give everything away, but I mean, what do you plan to? I mean, again, it's kind of read and react, and you don't know. Hell, by the first week of March, there could be some different guys here. Who knows? But
right.
What do you plan on? What do you plan on your message being, and kind of what do you plan on telling these guys? A lot of, as we've just talked about, a lot of young guys that are still trying to find their footing and are still trying to establish themselves in the major leagues.
Just remind them like this baseball thing is the exact same thing you've been playing since you were 5 years old. Like, the stadiums change, the fields change, the teams change, but the one thing is the game doesn't change. You can't let the atmosphere affect that. You can't let. It's very hard to not let it affect you because the emotions run high and everything about it. But you got to remember to take that step back and just realize, like, look, you're a good ball player. There's a reason you're here. There's a reason this team wants you here. So that's really where I'm trying to go with it. And in the baseball world, like, I'm just going to be watching for like little things that I can kind of hopefully tick up in their game a little bit. I'm not looking to revamp Cam Smith. I'm not looking to rebuild Zach Cole at all. I'm just here to, if I see something, I'm not going to tell him to switch here. I'm going to approach him. We're going to talk about it. And like, hey, here's what I suggest. Here's what I did. If it helps you, great. If not, throw it out the back door. But once I get there, I'm sure Joe's going to tell me what he wants me to do on a more broader spectrum, but we'll see. For that right now, that's kind of where I'm going with it. just trying to figure out what I want to talk to these guys about, and just really send the overall message. Like, look, there's something we can improve on every day, and while I'm here, I think we should take full advantage of it.
I will say, I don't know how many of these guys you've met. It's the 4 outfielders that we've talked about, but all of them are overly receptive to coaching. They have gotten great. Their makeup, all of their makeup, have gotten great marks.
And if they don't listen, I'll just bring this.
You should. You should bring that no matter what. You should bring that regardless.
I'll take a picture of it.
Yeah. But that's good. I'm excited. I think Joe made a wise decision getting a wily veteran left-handed hitting outfielder to come help this group of left-handed hitting outfielders kind of figure out what to do. Josh, we haven't talked to you since a couple things. Two big things that I think your perspective would be valued on. First, we'll get the salacious part out of the way first. It broke while Tyler and I were on our last pod. It broke that Tony Clark's the MLBPA chief resigned due to an internal investigation that found he engaged in an inappropriate relationship with his sister-in-law, who was a union employee.
Did we ever find out which side of the family it was on? Because that's relevant.
Yes, I believe Bob Nightingale of USA Today reported that it was Tony's wife's sister or current wife.
Not that it's okay either way, but that's about as bad as it gets.
Correct. Correct. Now, since
AJ, I got AJ back.
Oh, what did AJ say?
We're breaking. He goes, "You'll be happy to know that I didn't even realize it was his birthday today." And he said, "Happy belated. Hope all's well." So he might be just yanking my chain, but if he's being for real, then great. That's about 4 years built up for me right there that I can appreciate.
That's great.
Right,
I don't buy for a second that AJ forgot it was Justin Verlander.
No,
especially in Detroit, especially in Lakeland and Tiger Town, where
everybody knew it was his birthday.
Justin Verlander's the king of Tiger Town. So
yeah, everybody knew it.
But back to Tony Clark. The MLBPA since then has elected Bruce Meyer as the interim executive director of the PA. Not going to bore everyone with all the minutia of the PA, but suffice to say, Bruce Meyer is maybe a bigger deal than Tony Clark, because Bruce Meyer is the lead negotiator. He is the guy that when they get to bargaining, he is negotiating. He is doing the bargaining. Tony Clark was involved in the bargaining, but Tony Clark was kind of more the public face of this. While Bruce Meyer is the lawyer, he is a labor lawyer who was in charge of bargaining. So, Josh, maybe for people that kind of looked at this story and only saw like, oh, a guy got fired because he had an inappropriate relationship with his sister-in-law. Can you discuss why this is such a big deal and why the timing of it right before, the CBA expires in December? Like, explain for people why this is such a big deal.
I mean, you just said it. I mean, just what the lockout being so much closer than what baseball may realize. That negotiation is going to be a bigger pain in the butt now, but it just brings unwanted attention that the PA did not need. Tony's been in this business for a very long time and has done a lot of good things and not so many good things. And this just kind of falls into one of those things to be like, hey man, that was stupid. I mean, if we're being blunt, that was stupid. I mean, let's use our heads here. I mean, you just ruined not only your life, but it's a lot of other people's lives, and that's never okay to do it in that regard. So, just plain dumb to bring it in there. The timing of everything, spring training starting, obviously coming out, but just the timing of what's going on next year after this season's over just brings a whole new magnification of problems for this situation. And Bruce is going to be great. I mean, if you really think about it, Tony was kind of really like the public figure that kind of ran the ship, whereas like Bruce was that behind the door who really just made everything work anyway. And Tony just kind of like PR'd and made his public announcements that way. And he really related to the players well. I think Bruce Meyer and I maybe had 2 or 3 conversations in my time, but Tony was always somebody you could talk to just because he's been there. He's that player who's been through it. He knows what it's about. But now you can't look back and go, man, Tony was the smartest individual in this situation, but man, this is just something that's it's going to be talked about for a while. And because of not only because of the severity of the situation, but what you're looking at this year, this is going to be something that's going to be talked about all next year and through the negotiations, and then even this year. So just horrible timing, making dumb decisions on temptations that didn't need to be chased. And if you were that into each other, there are plenty of other ways to get around there. There's this thing called divorce you can do if you need to get to that. So if you're listening, don't do that. Just if you don't want to be with your wife anymore, just get a divorce and move on.
There's nepotism. There's like she worked for the union, which is another thing here that
now it's like, oh, you hired her just for that.
And again, like we're not saying that's the case, but again, like you open yourself up to that when this happens.
Yep.
And Tony Clark was the head of the union, and she was under him. That can be considered. When you look, that screams HR. Like that is like go to HR immediately. But don't want to get too much deeper into that. But I did think it was important to hear from a former player who has I don't know how involved you were with the union when you played, but obviously you sat through all the PA meetings. You had to go through at least one CBA negotiation during your career, probably two, because you were in the league so long. Like, it's a big deal. And, the one thing I'm glad you mentioned that Tony Clark is the only former player to ever run the MLBPA. So that is something Bruce will have to, that's a hurdle that Bruce will have to clear here, because the one thing that is pretty unanimous when you talk to people about Tony Clark is that he did a very good job relating to players, because like you said,
he did.
Tony's been there. Tony, like there is something about, the fraternity of being an MLB player, and only a select few people have that. Tony had it. Tony was able to relate to guys. Bruce is not that. Bruce is a labor lawyer. He is a lawyer. So, a lot of uncertainty there as that CBA is going to expire in December, and a lockout is all but certain, and barring something just completely unforeseen. Something just as probably sad, but not nearly as salacious. Josh, Lance McCullers, Tyler and I discussed it on our last pod. So Tyler and I have kind of said our piece, but Lance gave us a pretty emotional interview a couple of days ago here in camp, during which he made it pretty clear that this could be the last year of his career. This is the last year of his Astros contract. He said in so many words that if things go great this year and a team wants me next year, I'll be happy to do that. But if it doesn't, and this is it for me in baseball, I'll be perfectly content. He sounded like a guy at peace. He sounded like someone that kind of has a lot of clarity now in his mind. But just as his teammate, as somebody that has watched, been an up close view of Lance at his best. You saw him from across the way in 2015 when he came up. You saw him, and you were a teammate in 2017 and 2018 when probably Lance was at his peak. And now to him, about to be 33 years old, maybe staring down the end of his career. I guess I'm curious your perspective on Lance, that interview, and just where he's at in his baseball life and really his life in general.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds like a guy who's accepted what's coming in front of him. Man, it's heartbreaking to hear when anybody talks like that, but when you know a guy, it just makes it that much more intense. And for a guy that just got driven down a path that he didn't really get to choose, in a dream that he made come true in his own right. So I think we all really wanted Lance to be more of a player and competitor than he got to be from spending all that time from injuries and everything. And I know he would have loved that, but this is a guy who seems like he knows what he's doing. If he blows out, May 3rd or wherever, July, September, if he doesn't blow out, great. But if he does, and this is the end for him, he does seem like it's something that he can be like, you know what? This is just something I've got to learn to walk away from. I've got to be the family man now. There's a whole nother life. I mean, your life starts when you have a kid. When you have kids, your life really, truly does start. So he has really seemed to accept that. And if baseball is something he can put behind him, he can look back with his head held high. Like, he didn't get to play or pitch as many games he may have wanted to, but the accomplishments that he did get to be a part of are something that guys that spent 18 to 20 years in, and they didn't even get close to that. So he got to be a part of some really fantastic teams, one of the best dynasties in all of baseball. And he was right in the heart of that. So, like we say, we want to see him buried in the H. And if that's the case, then Lance McCullers will always be remembered in H-Town.
Everyone's asking because you shared your memories of his major league debut on X as we are looking on YouTube now. I think most people remember you were on the A's at when Lance made his debut, but the Batman cleats got brought up again.
Yep.
Give everyone the background of the Batman. I mean, the background is that Lance was a brash young kid that wore Batman cleats in his big league debut. You were on the other side, and you maybe did not appreciate a brash young kid going out and having that much show in his debut.
I did not, as most of my teammates did not. This is what he said, 15, right, was his debut. So,
yes.
I mean, this is a time before custom cleats were even a thing. Like, you had to have like 60% team color or white or some craziness. And I was just bitter because I was with the A's where we had to have like 75% white on our cleats on the road too, mind you, and it looked awful. So I was a little upset about that. Then he comes out in a debut and then goes out with some pretty cool. I mean, they were cool cleats. Let's not get past the coolness of his cleats and the fact that Marvel's better because Spider-Man's better than DC. But yeah, I mean, I remember being top step, chirping at him in his warm-ups, like, "Oh, you think you're cool because you're la 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 la," and I didn't do too well against him that night, but we, none of us did in that lineup. So, yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. Like, you're in the heat of the moment. This kid is in a time where you're not supposed to show any kind of, personalization in baseball yet. It wasn't a thing yet, if we can even remember that long ago in baseball fans. You weren't allowed to pimp home runs and do all the craziness you see now. So, yeah, I chirped him a good bit, and it was vetted. I mean, whatever. I was the salty veteran in the Oakland A's, and they were a young Astros team that were still trying to figure out how to win. So it seemed like it worked. They were very young, and nobody chirped back at me. And if I'm not, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, I remember a teammate of his giving him a hard time as well. But he just didn't care. That's Lance. That's who he was.
That's Lance. That is Lance to a T. I'm looking at the box score from his debut. You hit third in that A's lineup. You want to guess who hit second, fourth, and fifth?
Second, fourth, and fifth.
You hit so you hit third. So
okay,
right ahead.
What month of the season was that?
It was May 18th, 2015.
May 18th, 2015. I hit third. Okay.
You guys won the game 2-1. The Astros got 2 hits. Drew Pomeranz started for you guys.
Pomeranz started. Okay. Was that gosh. Second might have been, I don't know if it was Coco at that time. Who hit ahead of me that year? Son of a bee sting.
Coco Crisp hit leadoff. I'll give you that. Coco Crisp was hit leadoff.
Billy Burns?
No.
Dang it.
Sam Fold, the former GM of the Philadelphia Phillies, he hit eighth.
Okay.
The guy that hit second, I'll give you a couple hints. Guy that hit second has been a thorn in the Astros side for a long time and was traded this winter.
Oh, God. It was traded this winter?
He was traded to
Marcus Semien.
Marcus Semien.
Me. So Marcus Semien, me, and then we didn't have Danny Valencia yet, did we?
Nope.
Billy Butler.
Billy Butler hit cleanup, and then the only reason I asked you who hit fifth.
Ike Davis.
No. This guy hit fifth. He's much better at his current job than what he was as an actual player.
Are you gonna? Damn, that's an aggressive quote for Stephen Vogt.
It is Stephen Vogt. Back-to-back American League Manager of the Year.
God, he's so good. He's such a good manager and such a good person. So happy for him.
Jake Buchanan pitched the 9th inning of that game for the Astros.
Lance
McCullers went 4 2/3, struck out 5, walked 3, 93 pitches. A very typical Lance McCullers start, 93 pitches to get 14 outs.
I'm pretty sure I was on both sides of those. I'm pretty sure I walked and struck out against him that day.
Were you chirping in the batter's box, or did you just save that for the dugout?
No, that was top step in the dugout, helmet on, but never in the box.
What if he'd have throat slashed you guys like he did later on that year against the Royals in the DS?
Oof.
When Salvi and Mike Moustakas and Lorenzo Cain wanted to throw hands. Yeah.
If we can say that on air, hurt him. We'll say that. I would have been right there with him too.
And I think Lance would Lance is a lot more mature now. He's 33 years old. Like, I mean, he fully acknowledged that. But
I think the Royals got their revenge that year, though.
They did.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, we won't keep talking about that. But Grapefruit League play starts tomorrow at Cacti Park of the Palm Beaches. A PSA that I will be leaving Florida on Sunday for a little bit. I'm going to go back to Houston.
Unreal.
Help out, cover the WBC at Dyken Park, and then be back in the middle of March. This will be the last. Actually, it will not. This will not be the last show we do from West Palm Beach, because tomorrow, Saturday, we're scheduled to have another member of the Astros pitching staff join us for an interview here. Going to keep that a little bit of a secret. Look, we already got the bar so high. We got the opening day starter and the reigning Cy Young finalist Hunter Brown on. So this guy is just as good of an interview, but maybe not opening day starter level yet. But we'll have that tomorrow. But until then, you can follow me on X at Chandler_room. You can follow Josh at JRedDubDeuce. Please rate and review us on Apple, Spotify. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please like the YouTube video. That helps us a bunch. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow with an interview with a member of the Astros pitching staff. But until then, hopefully Tyler gets better if he's actually sick, and he'll be with us tomorrow. But if not, we'll make do. Talk to you guys soon, and thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.